Welcome to the All About PT podcast, episode number 7. I would like to remind you that the All About PT podcast is brought to you by the fine folks over at OrthoCore Physical Therapy. They are the best physical therapists, hands down, in the state of Rhode Island. And yes, I'm biased. But I want to remind you that they are sponsoring this podcast and they are offering a free injury screen to anybody listening. So go to www.orthocorept.com, comment and mention that you want a free injury screen, and they will set you up with that. So if you're somebody in the state of Rhode Island and you're thinking about getting some physical therapy, maybe you have a little injury, and you don't know where to go because there's some options, well, I can tell you that you can at least set up a free injury screen and see if you and the physical therapist are a good match before you get rolling with your treatment. So, again, go to www.orthocorept.com, go into the contact page, put down your information, mention that you listen to the podcast and you want your free injury screen, and they will be happy to set that up. So, now that we are past our sponsorship, we can go on to episode number 7 of the podcast. This is a discussion between myself and Kaitlyn Pimentel. We were talking about her blog post that she wrote about exercise as your election week superpower. It's a great talk about just her approach to training, where she came from, a little history. So we get to really kind of riff back and forth. I really had a great time interviewing her, so I hope you have a great time listening. And without further ado, enjoy the podcast.
All About PT podcast. Here's your host, award-winning physical therapist and fitness guru, Ian Manning.
Boom, we're live with Kaitlyn, episode number 7 of the podcast, the All About PT podcast. My good friend, my dear friend, Kaitlyn Pimentel. Hello, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So you were kind enough to write a blog post for us entitled Exercise is Your Election Week Superpower, which was posted back in November before the election, and interesting things have certainly happened since then. But before we get into the blog post, so I was telling Kaitlyn before we recorded this that I did a read aloud, like a bedtime story of her blog post. And now we're going to elaborate on that and just kind of talk about, why we use kettlebells, what's a ladder circuit, why it's important, and kind of get into our ideas of how we train our clients. But before we get into that, I wanted to talk about you, because you're my guest and I want to know more about you.
Oh gosh.
We were also talking about this. I pretty much know the answers to all these questions, but the listeners don't, and they need to know more about you. So kind of give us a little background, tell us about college, tell us about pre-college, tell us about golf, tell us about life. Like, give us a little summary of Kaitlyn from birth to now in 3 minutes. Go.
Well, how long do you have? No, thank you so much for having me, Ian. We, Mike and I, we consider you family.
Oh yeah.
You guys are just so great. Yep. Heck yeah. But yeah, I think the biggest thing was, a lot of people do ask, okay, you went to school for professional golf management, you played golf, where did golf fitness come into play? And it really is, as you know, it really is just to me, it was just like a natural progression, because as you know, my golf swing, I struggled a lot with, not so much with low back pain, not so much in my junior golf years, but as I decided, okay, the only way I'm going to probably get to college is if I play a sport and I get some kind of scholarship, or, get have a really a place to go and something to be a part of. And golf was just that thing. I didn't really grow up playing a lot of sports. I was
Your
definitely
grandfather got you into golf, right?
He did. Because I begged him, him and I are like this, we're really, really close. And I would beg him, can I just sit in the cart with you? And I won't have to play. I just want to sit. Yeah. He was like, sure. So, but he ended up finding, a golf, a set of golf clubs, and cut them down. And I apologize. My dogs are in the background wrestling. I don't know. I hope you can't hear them.
It's your family.
But so it was just, he gave me those golf clubs and cut them down for me, and then we just started playing a lot, and I really got into it. And
How
then
old were you?
flash forward, I probably started when I was like 13.
That's when I started. Are you serious?
Come
You're just
on,
messing with me.
really?
And my grandfather
Yes.
taught me how to play.
Ian, I didn't know your grandfather taught you how to play.
Yeah,
Oh
he
my
was a
gosh.
big time golfer. And so my first time playing with him, I was 13. We played at where was it? Somewhere in Mass, in Weston, and we lived like a mile or two away. And so he's like, "Oh, let's go golfing." And I was like, "Sure." I've never swung a golf club. And so like 3 holes into it, I was miserable, didn't know what I was doing, basically felt like I was being dragged around the course, and I wanted to go home. And I was like, "This game sucks. Like, I don't want to do it. This is boring, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "If you play all 18 holes, I'll let you drive home." And I was like, "Sold."
Done. Where do I start?
So
love golf.
13 years old, my grandfather he was a mechanic. Like, he was in World War II. He was a badass. And so he didn't care. You know, like if we had gotten pulled over, he would have easily talked his way out of it. He was just that type of person. But yeah, so 13 years old, I was driving a standard shift Datsun wagon home from the golf course and thought I was king of the world.
Oh my God.
And that's what that was my first association with golf. And then it was all uphill from there.
Oh yeah. That's really why I probably like golfing so much, because Pap always let me, that's what I call my grandfather, like he always let me drive the cart. And I'm like, sold. I'd love to.
It's amazing how gangster you feel having a golf cart that goes like 2 miles an hour. And you're like, "Oh my God,
2 miles.
I'm a race car driver."
I know, this is so, it's so true. Or like trying to do like, like not donuts. I would never do a donut, but no, I'm too terrified to do those. But like, it was such great memories. And then like you meet a lot of junior golfers that maybe don't necessarily go to your high school. So it was just like a great way to like meet other people who had like-minded mindset, and like they wanted to spend their Friday nights like hanging out at the driving range, because it was like kind of fun, and that's like what you do because it's cool. So it was just a really great way for me to like feel like, oh, these are my people, like, because not a lot of people really played golf. Like, especially I recruited some of my friends to be on the girls team because I didn't like, there was really no one, there wasn't really a girls team per se. There was at Dennis Yarmouth, but we needed more people. So it was like a really fun time. And I was like, well, if I'm having this much fun, feeling like a part of something and like goal oriented and, whatever, like I started to entertain the idea of like, can I play in college? I don't know. And so I just started taking lessons. I would work for lessons. Like my grandfather met this guy who owned like a driving range he was the head pro at like a local club, which I got my first job there. It was like my best friend and I were running the driving range. And then we were also working at the golf club. It was called like Kingsway at the time. And now I think it's called the Golf Club of, I don't know. I actually don't know what it's called. They just recently changed the name. But it was just like a really fun way to grow up, like caddying and being a part of the golf industry, and you learn customer service right away. And it was a really fun like route, and I wouldn't change it for the world. But then the more I started to like go towards the okay, I want to play in college, then I had to get really serious, and I started to hit more balls, play more golf, carried my bag a lot more. I started caddying. I think all of those things, when I finally did decide to go to Methodist University in Fayetteville, North Carolina, like, and be on the golf team, I think that first year really took a toll on my back because, as you know, Ian, like I had one personal training session and quit because I was like, one, I feel like an idiot. Two, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm a good golfer. Like, I'm a good golfer. I don't need this because I feel comfortable on the golf course and I don't feel comfortable in the gym. So why am I going to do something I don't feel like I belong? And I remember that gut feeling of just like, wow, I just took a look around and I was like, I'm not wearing the right stuff. Like, I'm not, I don't know what I'm doing here. And it wasn't like the most welcoming, I think, maybe environment in a gym setting, because if you don't know what you're doing, it's like, why be here?
Yeah.
And so, someone didn't sell me on why I needed it. So I just said, I don't really need this. Like, a lot of these other golfers aren't really doing this stuff yet, so I don't really need to. And then I went to college and didn't even think two things about it until I started to really have some low back issues, where to the point where I couldn't even like play a round of golf without taking like ibuprofen or a couple Advil or something. And I couldn't like sit in class a lot. I had to like stand up in the back because or like walk around, because sitting just really, really bothered me. And then I started to like dig why are these things happening? And going to like the training room wasn't like the thing to really do for golfers, because I just kind of felt like I'm not, like, at that time I wasn't really playing great golf in college, and so I felt like I wasn't really good enough to go to this training room, because like all like the like the national championship like team would go for like their shoulder, and like, well, I'm like, well, I feel a little embarrassed that I'm going for my back and I'm not even playing well, so I'll just deal with it, which is a really silly thing to think. But the more I started to get involved with um this started to one of my team, this was the beginning of my sophomore no this is the end of my freshman year. She was like, let me assess you. So she ran me through a level 1 assessment. She's like, oh man, like, this is why you're lacking a lot of core stability, your hip mobility's off, like, this is why it's painful to like disassociate. And it just all made sense, and I felt like, wow, I haven't been crazy this whole time. And there's actually a term for what I have. Not that I feel like as people or as humans, it's nice to feel like, oh, there's not like a label, because that doesn't define you, but like there's something to categorize what you're experiencing, and it's not like it's someone else has gone through this too. It's not because for a while you're like, am I not normal? Like, what's going on here? So once I went through that experience, Ian, I thought I wanted to be like a top 100 like golf instructor, and go to like Doral and be a Jim McLean and like do that route. And I literally like threw everything up in the air, and I was like, I want to do golf fitness. So I started taking golf fitness. Like, I started taking exercise science courses at school, in addition to what I was already doing for business and PGA. I ended up graduating with my PGA degree, or my professional golf management or PGA certification, but I went the golf fitness track, and I got TPI certified. I got FMS certified.
Did you
I
do
did
that
an
in college
internship
or
with
after college?
in college.
Wow.
I think I was by the time I graduated, I think I was level 2 junior fitness coach, FMS. I bought the NSCA book and started studying that, and I was like, oh boy, I think I need to take more exercise.
Oh, there's a lot in here that I don't know.
What is the sliding filament theory? What is this?
What's a Krebs cycle?
Where is it sliding? What's happening in my body? Oh boy. And I studied so hard for those classes, and I barely passed by the skin of my teeth. I think I got a C+. And I was like, oh boy, because that's what you needed to like, in order for it to take it over again, if you wanted a minor in it. And I was like, man, that's the best C+ I've ever.
Yeah, you worked hard for that C+.
At the time, I would be like, I worked really hard for that C+. But I don't know. Then it just kind of, it's a really cool thing to come from like a player's perspective.
Sure.
And a teaching perspective, even though I didn't really do a lot of teaching. I can, but I don't. Like, I go to you for that, or like. Sorry, my dogs are being really bad.
You really you can't even hear it, honestly.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I really apologize. But I really like this weird nonlinear path it took, because now I understand from a player's perspective, from a teaching perspective, and how to really get, like, I understand what a golfer is going through because I've been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've done it, and I know, like, it's really nice to be able to like say, I understand and
Right.
actually mean it and
Yeah.
not be, you know what I mean? So it's,
Well, no, that's
that's
what makes
like
you a great
positive.
coach, is because not only are you educated, she's done much better since the C plus, everybody, just so you know.
Yes, I have.
She's got uphill since the C plus. I don't want to think we bring dummies on the podcast.
Dummies on the podcast. Oh my God, so funny.
But not only are you really well educated, like you've gone through TPI, you worked at Boyles, you worked with Janet Alexander and really working with females specifically, like, you know your stuff. But like you said, you've been through it, so you can relate to people. And, like you said, when you were young and you went to your training session, there's almost that natural barrier between people. Like, I don't know how much I trust you. Like, I know you have all these certifications, but you got to kind of prove it. And then when you can come right into it and be like, look, I know what you're going through. I've been there. Here's my story. It all comes back to your story. Same thing for me. Like, I had back pain when I played, and I was like, not only did I not think I should have back pain when I'm 26 years old,
Right.
I thought I was king of the world at that point. And I was I loved being a physical therapist, but I also really love golf. And I was like, I'm going to Google golf PT. And that's how I found TPI. But to then have patients come in and be like, all right, here, I'm educated, but look, I have back pain too, and I get it. And this is what I work on, and now I don't. And, so people kind of hear your story and they can relate to it. So you instantly create that bond, which is only going to make you that much of a better coach.
It really does. Like it really does. And I'm like grateful for it. You still learn so many things about your body, and I've learned just so much. I'm so glad like Mike and I connected with you through Chris Poirier, because like I've learned so much more about my game personally, and fixing things that I thought I fixed that I didn't fix, like S posture, and like how much I thought I was using my cord or my golf swing, but I really wasn't, and how much more powerful. It really is cool to know that like if you're doing everything you can in the gym, and you're not seeing it carry over to your golf swing, it just really is so powerful to have, whether it's, Ian or someone like myself or whomever, like a team around you that fills all these buckets. Like, your nutrition person, your holistic medical person, your physical therapist, your trainer, like your strength coach, just like having these people who can tweak things and show you, okay, you've been working out consistently for the past like 6 months, the ball isn't going any farther, and you're not, the compression hasn't changed. That's an issue. Like and it's probably, that's why these screens and like just checking in with these team members of yours, it could just be like the flip of a switch of something so small that could change the game. Like you work on with me, like tucking your pelvis a little bit more over the ball, and like
address.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden 20-30 yards are adding, like, I'm not even kidding. I'm not even kidding. Like, to know that you have potentially 5, 10, 15, 20 yards in the tank by just fixing something so small, to me is like so wild, because if you didn't know that, you would be probably buying all these gimmicks and like gadgets on Amazon or whatever, all these ads that are preying on golfers, like, do you want 5 more yards? Well, who doesn't?
Yeah.
I'll
take 2 more yards. Yeah. How much does it cost me?
200. Okay. Oh my gosh, but it's so true. But
I think Greg Rose. So to those who don't know, Greg Rose is the co-founder of TPI. He's a chiropractor, crazy smart individual. But he, I think he gives the best analogy where he gives the race car analogy. And the golfer is the race car. But if you don't have tires, you don't have gas, you don't have a driver, you don't have a pit crew, great, you're not going anywhere. So it's a matter of trying to get around that track as fast as possible, but having all the right pieces in place to make sure that the car not only stays on the track, but goes in the right direction. So I think, it's nice. And I don't think enough people understand how simple the screens are and how much information it can give you. And like you said, sometimes it just takes a little bit of a tweak, whether it be, the FMS screen or the TPI screen, or getting on the K-Vest or going to a golf lesson. Like,
Right.
The things that people think that they can do for themselves because they see it on TV is usually not the right approach. But it's definitely not a one size fits all. You want to know, another saying is assess, don't guess. So you want to assess what you are versus just like, oh, I saw this in a golf magazine, I'm going to try that. Like, is it a good exercise? Sure. It'll improve, but is it what you need to improve in most? It might not be, in which case, people are going to get frustrated.
Right.
And then they're not going to stick with the program, and then they're going to poo-poo, what strength and conditioning does because it didn't work for them. Well, it didn't work for you because you started on the wrong path. You can't get to Europe by going west. You got to go down the right path. That was a stupid analogy, but it's the best I could come up with.
No, I get it.
She's like Europe? What the hell are you talking about? Yeah, good one, Ian. Let's go back to talking about race cars because it makes sense.
Let's go talk about race cars. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's funny. That's so funny.
So I think when people get into training, one of the things they always talk about is not having enough time, in which case your blog post is perfect. So tell us about a ladder circuit, like what it is, how it works. Talk people through that.
Yes. So for those who are listening, you probably already what blog he's talking about. It's a circuit that is one of my favorites. It just includes like 4, you could do this with any movement, but I particularly love these 4 movements. It's the kettlebell swing, a goblet squat, overhead press, and a kettlebell row.
So now, is it always 4 or does it not matter? Like, is there always 4 separate exercises?
No, it really doesn't. It really doesn't matter. Like with it, I hate this answer, but it depends. Like,
sure,
because we're doing a tremendous amount of volume in this particular. Like, we're doing anywhere between week 1 you start off, with 5 rounds. Week 2, 7. Week 3, 9. So you're just slowly but surely giving your tendons and your body enough time to adjust to what you're doing. And I mean, I want to just start off by saying, like, it depends on where you're starting from. If you've never picked up a kettlebell before, this would look a little bit different. Like, I'd probably only have you do, maybe up to 3 reps and that be your ladder. You know what I mean? Like, so it really depends on where you're starting, and which is so great to like reach out to someone like myself or Ian or any other part of the OrthoCore team to like see what might be the best way for you to start. But I made this circuit in with the intention of having people realize how easy it can be to work out from home during this time, or just like the sole purpose of this circuit was for cardiovascular purposes, as well as building up your strength at the same time. Now you'll notice that if you do the circuit, this will get your heart rate up. We're not talking about a lot of reps here, but we're also not talking a lot about a lot of rest either, which is great. And it's a different way to it's almost like with this type of circuit, you're going to feel like you maybe just went for a run or a swim, or you're going to feel, like you just worked out, like you just did something cardiovascular, which is really, really nice. And this type of workout is great for if you are, maybe you're like kind of stressed out right now, or you don't have a lot of time, but you still want to move, and you want to move your body in a way that maybe isn't really heavy lifting right now, because your body just doesn't feel like it has enough oomph to do that today. It's a very scientific term. Oomph.
Well, I think not enough people understand that when you feel fatigued and you feel like there's chemicals in your body called endorphins, which they're your happy drug, right? And a lot of times people feel down and tired, and they're like, oh, I'm just going to rest it out. Like, yeah, maybe you need some rest, but more likely than not, if you just get up and do something, you're going to release those endorphins. You're going to get that dopamine going in your brain, and it's going to make you feel better. And then you'll feel more likely to want to do it again. I think too many people are like, oh, not today. Like, I'm still tired, blah, blah, blah. Like, and you look at this circuit will take you tops 15, 20 minutes. Like, I don't give a hoot and hanny who the hell you are. You have 20 minutes to do it. So don't give me that I'm too busy excuse. I'm trying not to swear, Kaitlyn. I'm trying to be better, but so many swear words want to come flying out of my mouth. Emily yells at me every single time. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that you were an educated trucker.
Oh my gosh, I love Emily. She's so funny. An educated trucker. I'm gonna get a hat.
An educated trucker hat.
Would
it be an actual trucker hat that just says educated on it, or would it
educated? Yes.
on it and then be on a trucker hat?
I have to think about that. I have to think about the most bang for our buck here.
I like just the educated idea. I think
educated.
That would be like the underground hat. Like, oh, I know what you're saying. I know you.
I know it. I get you. I see you. I see you. But yeah, it's such a great way to take one bell. You just have to have one lightweight bell at your house. I mean, for me to do something like this, I'd probably use, I don't know, an 8 or 12, depending on how many reps. But since we're not doing that many reps this week, I'd probably use like a 12.
Yeah. Could you modify it with a dumbbell if people don't have a kettlebell?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, of course. So the only thing with the kettlebell swing, you like if you're holding with a dumbbell or a kettlebell, you would hold it by like the horns, if you will, like where the handle comes out from the kettlebell.
Right.
So the handle's on top, bell's on bottom. There's many different ways you can hold a kettlebell, but that's the one that I really like because it just allows you to be able to like squeeze your shoulder blades, keep your chest up and keep your shoulders down away from your ears. The goblet squat hold it the same way. The kettlebell swing, and then then if you do like the overhead press, you're just like basically punching, the handle is going across your palm and you're kind of punching your wrist through. So the bell is sitting on the outside of your wrist. It won't probably feel that great if you're new to kettlebells, but
a lot of people have to get
you,
used to that sensation.
Yeah. And for the longest time, like if you have a long sleeve or maybe like a thin sweatband or something, you could put that under there. It's just kind of cushions it a little bit. Yeah. I've had people do that. And then a row is just a row. But the only difference is if you're using a dumbbell, you would just hold the swing, and the goblet squat would just be a little bit different.
Yeah, you just hold the ends of the dumbbell.
Yeah, you just hold the ends of the dumbbell and there you go. But yeah, you can definitely use, if you want to use something on the lighter side that you can move quickly without, when I mean quickly, like you can move between exercises without risking crap form. That's a really nice term. Hello. Without compromise.
Educated trucker. Educated
trucker.
We're making hats.
Yeah. We are totally making
a trucker hat. Let us know. We'll get you one.
We will get you one.
You can be a part of the in crowd. We'll see each other on the streets. Be like, hey, you listen to the podcast. That's cool.
You are a podcast listener. Oh my gosh, so funny. But yeah, I think it's, and just what term ladder means is just another word for a circuit. So if you look at week 1, we're doing 5 total rounds, but we're starting with 1 rep of each exercise. So you go 1 swing, 1 goblet squat, 1 overhead press, 1 kettlebell row, and then you rest until you feel like you can have a conversation with someone. And I normally recommend hands on knees, regardless of what your coach back in the day had said. A hands on knees is a really great way to recover. It's a great resting posture. And then as soon as you feel like you're recovered, you go on to round 2 where you do 2 reps of everything. You do kettlebell swing, 2 swings, 2 squats, 2 presses, 2 rows, and that's 2 presses on each side. And then rest until you feel like you can have a normal conversation. Then you go to 3, then you bring it back down, hence the ladder. You go up the ladder, then you go down the ladder. And, with this type of ladder movement, when we're dealing with a lot of volume, you're dealing with overhead exercises, this is where I typically kind of max it out at 5 reps. I'd really recommend you stay under that 5 rep just because this is a tremendous amount of volume, and you just like how we probably feel about CrossFit, like we want your reps to be really, really great. So if you feel like you're trying to make it to 5 reps, but you're compromising, like, you're going in S posture to do a press, or your squat looks like, loosey goosey, like you want to cap it off. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm trying to say? So just with these types of things, you just really want to be in tune with how your body feels and know like your limits.
It's just better to do more quality repetitions versus quantity.
Right.
Doing quantity at bad reps is what gets you on my table.
Yeah, we don't want to be on Ian's table.
Great
We
for
love
business.
Ian,
Great
but
for business.
we do want to
Not
be on your
good
table.
for ethics. So
No.
don't overdo it unless you want to send my kids to college. In which case, overdo it because my kids have to go to college and I'm poor.
Oh my God. I feel like I've definitely paid for maybe their first year with how many next things with swimming and surfing. Like I've got to be
Slate's
up
freshman
there.
year is paid for by the Pimentels. This year sponsored by
This year sponsored by the Pimentel Party.
So is
funny.
this something, I think a lot of golfers, they'll probably start to think about it in like a month or two of actually getting a program going because they want to spend 2 weeks working out and then start the season. But is this, I would think of this as a good workout to do in season too, because I feel like a lot of people, even if they dedicate themselves to an off-season program, once golf season starts, they're off the wagon. And I get it because if you do think of how sore that you are after a workout, like I've tried to swing golf club after a workout and it doesn't usually go well. So if people are serious about their golf game and entering tournaments and all that stuff, like the pros, they plan out their workouts based upon their, the big time tournaments. Some pros who are top 25 plan around the majors. They want to be at their peak form around the majors. They'll kind of fit it in with other tournaments during the year that they don't care about as much. They might catch lightning in a bottle, but they really care about the majors. So is this something that a golfer could do in season without feeling like they're going to jeopardize their swing?
This is a really good question. And it really does depend, because if someone, and you and I both know this, like if someone is really takes their tournament schedule seriously, like you're a serious golfer where you care about your rounds, like not just that, but like you're looking forward to playing really well and training for tournaments. If you have like a tournament, if you have a tournament in less than, let's say, I don't know, like 12 weeks away, and I wouldn't even say that. Like, in order to see and feel changes, we need to be getting at least 8 to 10 workouts in per month.
Mm-hmm.
And me personally, you'll start to see and feel changes depending on what your training history is right away. Like you'll feel relief. You'll just feel, and plus the emotion, like the endorphin wise, like you'll just feel happier. But when you start a new program, you really want to give yourself, I would say, at least a month in advance of starting a new program, and giving your body time to get used to it before you start adding in tournaments that you care about. And I'm sure so many people have different opinions about this, but just
also
for
everybody
me,
responds differently.
Exactly.
You got to really understand who you are. Like how I respond and how you respond to a workout are two different scenarios.
Exactly. And I have, like, myself and players I work with, like, they could have one of the hardest workouts and then go play golf, but because they're fueling right, they're sleeping right, their stress is low, they've been training for years. They know, like, their body is so used to it. So if you're looking to do a workout like this or any type of strength training workout, I would really recommend you start now during the off season. That way, when you get to the spring, you have a pre-golf warm-up, you have a cool down, you've got all these steps in place, plus your body is used, your tendons, your body is used to playing, like, training at this type of level. Then your training will, depending on the level of golf that you're playing and how the tournament schedule and your travel schedule for work and what you're doing that summer, like, your training could change or it could stay the same. But if you want to start working out in the middle of your season, but you don't really, you're just kind of playing to play, and you're not particularly have any goals in mind for your season, like, you're just maybe taking lessons, you're just playing to play, then sure, like, start working out. Just make sure you're letting your coach know, your swing coach, and make sure you're working with someone who can have eyeballs on your swing and eyeballs on the way your body is moving in the gym, to make sure, like, the progressions are where they should be. according to where you're at. And every month it's getting a little bit harder, whether it be with volume or with the progressions that you're using, just these little things, because you always want to be changing it every month in some way to make sure your body's continuously being shocked per se. So you're progressing, progressive resistance, fancy word, because I'm educated. Fancy word.
I'm taking your hat back. You don't get to wear it.
I'm taking my hat back. Oh boy. But yeah.
No, that's all. I think it's great advice. I think a lot of people, like we talked about, the best thing that you can do is get assessed first. And the nice thing for our listeners, if they mention the podcast that they listened, they get a free assessment with Kaitlyn at OrthoCore, which is amazeballs.
How about them? I thought I was the only one that said that. I'm so glad you said that.
So, Kaitlyn, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you so much for elaborating on your ladder circuit post. It's always fun to talk with you. It's always great to be around you. But I really think that our listeners are going to learn something from this, and hopefully it gave them a little insight into who you are, but also kind of just training in general, and how if you don't have to necessarily be on the PGA to do something simple that's going to positively impact your golf swing.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really, how we feel about you guys. Yeah. You guys are just the best. And
this will be the first of many.
I know. This is always so fun. Like, you were so positive, so passionate, and just enthusiastic. And that's why like minds, I don't know what that saying is, but yeah. You know what I'm saying.
Sure. I think we just made it up, but it makes sense.
Yep. Talking to race cars again.
Yep.
Truckers and race cars.
It's like a little think tank.
I know. Oh my gosh, I'm so good. But I really appreciate it. And yes, I'd be so excited and delighted to help anyone that, is looking to just either like take it to the next level this season, whatever that level may be, or maybe you've never done this before and now's it's January, you're like, let's do this, or whatever time this is coming out. But we are here for you, and we're just so excited to help you this season.
So mention the podcast, people who are listening, and get your free assessment. I can guarantee you Kaitlyn will blow your mind. And Kaitlyn, thanks so much for being on the All About PT podcast.
Thank you so much, Ian. Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll check you next time, people.